February, 630 AD. The blood had barely dried in the treacherous Valley of Hunayn when the Muslim army was on the march again. The Hawazin and Thaqif tribes had been shattered in the field, but their surviving forces, led by the fugitive commander Malik ibn Auf, had fled to the ultimate sanctuary, the city of Taif. Taif was not a mere desert settlement, it was a fortress of arrogance. Perched high in the mountains and surrounded by massive, seemingly impenetrable stone walls, the city was heavily provisioned to withstand a year-long siege. The Thaqif were master archers, and their battlements bristled with defenders ready to rain death upon anyone who approached. The Muslim army needed a vanguard to lead the dangerous pursuit through the mountains and establish the siege. As documented by early Islamic historian al-Waqidi in his highly detailed Kitab al-Maghazi, the Book of Campaigns, the man chosen to lead this perilous advance was the very man who had nearly bled to death from multiple spear wounds just days prior, Khalid ibn al-Walid. His rapid recovery was nothing short of miraculous, fueled by sheer, unrelenting willpower. Riding at the head of a 1,000-strong cavalry detachment, the sword of Allah did not look like a man who had just survived an ambush. He rode with the furious momentum of an apex predator tracking its prey. When the Muslim army arrived and surrounded the imposing walls of Taif, a psychological standoff began. The Thaqif locked their heavy wooden gates and refused to come out and fight. They stayed behind their impenetrable stone, shooting a relentless, deadly hail of arrows that forced the Muslim camp to pull back out of range. But Khalid ibn al-Walid despised hiding. He understood that siege warfare was as much about breaking the enemy's mind as it was about breaking their walls. As the acclaimed military historian A.I. Akram details in his definitive biography, The Sword of Allah, Khalid decided to shatter the Thaqif's sense of security. Ignoring the deadly rain of arrows, Khalid rode his warhorse out of the safety of the Muslim camp and galloped directly up to the massive gates of Taif. He stood alone in the shadow of the fortress, looking up at the thousands of heavily armed men on the battlements. Drawing his broad Yemeni scimitar, Khalid roared a challenge into the mountain air. He demanded that their greatest warriors, their fiercest commanders, come down and face him in single combat. He called them out by name, mocking their cowardice for hiding behind stone walls while claiming to be the masters of Arabia. The battlements fell silent. The Thaqif looked down at the lone, blood-tempered commander. Not a single man accepted the challenge. The psychological victory was absolute. An entire fortified city was too terrified to send one man to face the sword of Allah. However, bravery alone cannot tear down stone. The siege of Taif escalated into a brutal, highly technical military engagement. As recorded by Ibn Ishaq in the Sirat Rasul Allah, the Prophet Muhammad authorized the use of advanced siege technology. The Muslims constructed a Manjaniq, or catapult, to bombard the walls, and they built a Dabbaba, a massive armor-plated wooden tank designed to protect soldiers as they rolled up to the walls to breach them with pickaxes. Khalid's men were among those who pushed the wooden beast forward under heavy fire. But the Thaqif were brilliant and ruthless defenders. As the Dabbaba reached the wall, the defenders did not throw rocks. They brought out cauldrons of molten scrap iron and poured the red-hot liquid metal directly onto the wooden siege engine. The roof caught fire, forcing the Muslims to desperately retreat as the Thaqif rained arrows down upon their exposed backs. The siege dragged on for nearly a month. Casualties were mounting, and the fortress refused to crack. It was here that the Prophet Muhammad made a profound strategic decision. He consulted his commanders and declared that God had not yet permitted the fall of Taif. To stay would mean throwing away the lives of his men against an unbreakable wall. He ordered the army to lift the siege and withdraw. For a warrior as fiercely driven as Khalid, walking away from an unconquered enemy was a bitter pill to swallow. Yet this moment defined his discipline. He was not a rogue warlord driven by blind ego. He was a soldier who submitted to a higher command. Khalid sheathed his sword, turned his horse around, and managed the organized withdrawal. The Prophet's strategic patience proved correct. Without a single additional drop of blood spilled, the Thaqif, completely isolated and economically crippled by the surrounding Muslim victories, voluntarily traveled to Medina months later, surrendered the keys to their fortress, and accepted Islam. Khalid ibn al-Walid did not physically break the walls of Taif, but his fearless charge to the gates cemented his terrifying legend. He proved that whether he was ambushed in a dark valley or facing the highest fortress walls in Arabia, the sword of Allah would never hesitate to step into the fire.